Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching, and thanks to our producer, Jeff Durall. We're at the parlor of the First United Methodist Church at 7th and Ash in Hayes with Deacon Scott Watford from St. Nicholas of Myra Catholic Church in Hayes, and senior pastor of the First United Methodist Church, Reverend Jerry Nolte, as we talk about Thanksgiving 2014 and what we need to know. And as we were talking before we actually began, this is the time of year when we celebrate the Easter Bunny seeing his shadow and predicting another, or is that something, have I got these confused, Scott?
I think there may be a little confusion.
Talk about confusion. Nolte knows of my confusion, I think.
That's understandable given the conversation we were having.
Absolutely. All right. But on a more serious note, I guess, at least for a minute or two anyway, what do we really need to know about Thanksgiving, Deacon Scott?
Obviously, it's a national holiday set aside for us to give thanks for all the blessings that we have, and there are many. Just the blessing of living where we live. We have such an abundance that we unfortunately can take for granted. So to take a little time as a nation, as a country, to reflect on all the gifts, the blessings that we have received, and to give thanks for that. That's the meaning that most of us, I think, put behind Thanksgiving Day. It's a good time to gather with family and friends. We share out of that abundance that we have, the food being a wonderful symbol of that. So it's a great time for family as well for most people. And so we kind of have those kind of ideas that revolve around Thanksgiving Day. Unfortunately, some other things have kind of crept in over time, like it's a shopping day and that you get your bargains and that sort of thing on Thanksgiving. It used to be right after Thanksgiving, but now it's Thanksgiving Day. So I think we have to be a little more intentional these days about really using the day for what it's intended for. It's not a time to be busy. It's a time to step away from all that busyness and to give thanks for all that we have.
Reverend Nolte, what would you add or reemphasize to what Deacon Scott said?
Well, I think what Scott is saying is truly appropriate. I really like the whole notion of making it an individual basis where I am understanding my part in what I have received. We've visited before that sometimes people feel as if they don't necessarily have very much to be thankful for. I live in a place that I can't afford. I can't afford my food, but many of us are people who have means, and yet we don't take the time to really be thankful. So I like what Scott's saying about the corporate nature. I also think that you ask, Mike, what is Thanksgiving all about? And I think one of the big things is that as we individually take a look at what we have and our gratitude for that, it may cause us to somehow well up from our inner core to say, I am grateful for relationships, for the bounty that I live in, the various aspects of what I am actually grateful for. And I do think it's an important moment to do that as a corporate, but I think it's an important moment as an individual. And I also like what Scott was saying about how right now in our world it's just completely invaded. And this being one of the first years that Thanksgiving Day shopping is taking place. So we have Black Friday the next day, and then Cyber Monday. And of course, those of us who are really paying attention, there's Giving Tuesday. And I'm hopeful, Mike, that really then shares with people the opportunity that they have to be thankful on that Thursday, and then on Tuesday to do something about that, to give, if you will, pay it forward, some of those notions.
And Scott, I'm glad you mentioned that shopping Thanksgiving Day influence, which has crept into our overall view of the holiday, because this has been a really controversial issue where it takes people away from family, from time to spend with family, some of which may be the only times they get to spend with family, and yet the emphasis has been reshifted. Is it possible for us maybe to shift that back again to the original purpose and meaning of Thanksgiving?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's always possible. It would take us being intentional about that. I can only fault the people who wish to sell to us on Thanksgiving to a degree. They would not be doing that if we weren't willing to go out and purchase their goods. So if enough of us decided we aren't going to take part in that, we're going to spend time in reflection with our family, or indeed individually, as Jerry was also adding that to the picture. If enough of us decide to do that, then this won't take place because it's not profitable. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with making a profit. It's just that isn't all there is, and consuming isn't all there is. And unfortunately, the emphasis becomes on profit and consumption. Of course, we're consuming our turkey, most of us, but we are doing that with a mind to the fact that all of this is a gift, and we would not have what we have unless it were given to us. Ultimately, for those of us who are believers, it all comes from God. And boy, in all the consuming and profit making, that really could get lost. So yeah, it would take a lot of intentionality, especially on the part of people who want their mindset to be such that they are remembering the source of all that they have on Thanksgiving. And there's a lot of us who are of that mindset, and if we were all on the same page, things very much would change.
It's a matter of personal choice once again, isn't it, Reverend Nolte?
Well, truly, and I mean, everyone is going to be faced with a choice in how they choose it. And what Scott is saying is true about who we are. If a groundswell of community, of people, individuals said, while it's important for the larger economic growth of any sector of the larger populace, it's more important to sit and reflect, to be thankful with an attitude of gratitude, as many have said through the years, for what I have, whether it's something that I can tangibly understand, or whether it's something that's more esoteric and more introspective of that spiritual realm. And I think that would take unfortunately, from what I'm understanding, that would take a large group of people to somehow swell up from underneath and say, we're not going to do that.
Deacon Scott, do we have a guidepost or a model for how we approach Thanksgiving? I know Reverend Nolte has said individually we start with counting our blessings, thinking within of what resources and what joys we have. Is there a guidepost for us?
Yeah, I would say there are probably a lot of people in our lives that we could point to who are people who exhibit gratitude, that attitude of gratitude. And I think anybody who has that attitude is automatically going to be a happy person. It's hard for me to imagine someone who is grateful being at the same time unhappy. And of course, as a Christian, I'm going to always point to Jesus as the model for that, because he's the model of our relationship to God, and he is the model of thanksgiving, of trusting God for everything. And ultimately, that's how we receive life itself, is from God, and he is the very epitome of that. And in his teaching, he speaks frequently about depending on God and how God is faithful and God will provide. Of course, that doesn't mean we just sit around and wait for God to provide. I mean, we work and all of that, but even the ability to get out and work, to make a living. Again, none of us did anything to deserve to be born where we were born, where we have so many opportunities. And again, I think Jesus is the best example of living out of that gratitude and a sort of response to what has been received from God. Of course, there isn't any better model for that. But then again, there are lots of people, some we have studied and learned about from the past, but people living today too, who are themselves examples of what Jesus is like, that we can see living and breathing examples. So we can look to those kinds of examples as well.
I think one of those areas that perhaps provides an example is the Ellis County Ministerial Alliance Thanksgiving meal for the community. Reverend Nolte?
Certainly. And just additionally, Mike, the community of faith, I would add that to that model concept. When you gather with other people of like mind, if you will, there's something to be gained from that for you. And that's what we do as a Ellis County grouping of people. We come together for a meal. We come together, for a moment where we say, we are indeed grateful to be a people together. And so the Thanksgiving meal will be taking place on Thanksgiving Day, on Thursday, and it will be happening out at the old Fanchon Ballroom, out on East 8th. That's now the bakery shop's place. And it'll be a wonderful time where we have probably in the neighborhood of 400 meals ready to be served, and about that many bags of groceries to send home with people who are unable to have other meal portions at home and can take them with them. And so that gathering will take place at noon on Thanksgiving Day.
And of course, that is a free event for the community, sponsored by the Ellis County Ministerial Alliance every year.
It is, and there are a lot of different sponsors. One of the things that I am aware of, the Community Assistance Center, Lori was sharing, I heard on the media today, actually, that she was sharing how there are partnerships they're new partnerships that she's gaining in what she's able to do in handing out food and helping people through the tough times of their life. And anytime there's a partnership with a community business or other just community partnerships, I think it's a powerful impact that we can make on the whole.
This particular event, the Thanksgiving community meal, Deacon Scott, is something that not only brings us together for a food source and fellowship and communion, but also brings us together in a form of relationships, because the people coming together may be families, they may be individuals who don't have a family home for Thanksgiving, who may be food stressed perhaps for the holiday season, and yet this reaching out can certainly help.
Yeah, I think that's at the heart of the concept of the Thanksgiving dinner. It's not strictly for that purpose, but that it is included in the purpose. And so anyone who may be in a situation where they don't have the food or the means to acquire the food, or are in a situation where they can't prepare it themselves or something like that, can certainly come out and enjoy this meal. Again, that sense of community coming together. I think for anyone who's isolated or lonely, if they can get out and do that, I think it would be a great benefit to them and make their Thanksgiving much better, not to mention just improve the quality of their lives, at least for a day. I think there are even some Meals on Wheels that'll go out as well for people. Mm-hmm. We have to remember some people they can't get out to an event like that. Well, we can come to them. And so, yeah. It's an event that has the potential, well, not only the potential, I think it has proven in the past that it does improve the quality of the lives of a lot of people in our community.
And is another plus side to the community, if you will, of Ellis County. Thanksgiving 2014 with our guests, Reverend Jerry Nolte, Senior Pastor of First United Methodist Church in Hayes, and Deacon Scott Watford, who is the deacon at St. Nicholas of Myra Catholic Church. Our community connection. Thanks for watching.